Ask any man what women fear the most, and he'll give you textbook answers: loneliness, betrayal, abandonment. But that's just the socially acceptable mask. The real fear is deeper, more primal, buried beneath decades of polished language and empowerment rhetoric. It's not something she posts about on Instagram or confesses during a wine-fueled therapy session. It's silent, it's ancient, and it governs her behavior more than any modern ideology ever could. If you fail to understand it, you'll misread her completely. You'll believe she's acting irrationally when she's actually acting in line with her most ancient survival instinct. You'll take her rejection personally, her distance as betrayal, her chaos as malice. But it's none of those things. It's desperation, camouflaged, instinctive, and utterly misunderstood. Machiavelli said men are more driven by fear than love. That truth applies to women too, only their fear isn't physical violence or abandonment. It's far more elegant and insidious. It's the fear of becoming irrelevant, the fear of losing her power, of no longer being seen, of disappearing in a world that once revolved around her reflection. This is not vanity. It's not arrogance. It's survival. Relevance is her currency in the social and relational economy. Once that currency declines, panic sets in. And when that panic arrives, it doesn't announce itself. It bleeds through in strange behaviors, emotional outbursts, random fights, insatiable validation seeking, constant testing. Not because she's crazy, but because she's terrified. She's fighting a silent clock, one that doesn't stop ticking. You think it's an exaggeration? Then explain the psychological collapse of high-achieving, confident women who suddenly spiral the moment attention fades. Explain the desperate race to freeze eggs at 35, the filters, the constant selfies, the validation addiction. This isn't narcissism. It's self-preservation. It's a modern mask for an ancient fear. This fear doesn't show up in speeches or articles. It shows up in her silence, in her accusations, in her longing for compliments she claims she doesn't care about. And if you can't decode that, you're not fit to lead. You're not ready to handle her storm. Men fail in relationships because they believe women think like men. That is the fatal illusion. Men project masculine logic onto feminine emotion and expect it to make sense. But she doesn't love like you do. She doesn't fear what you fear. You value loyalty, consistency, honor. You think being present and good and faithful is enough. It's not, because she's not measuring you by your kindness. She's measuring you by what your presence reflects back onto her. If no one notices her when she stands beside you, she begins to feel the edges of invisibility. She starts doubting her power, her relevance. And once that happens, love is no longer enough. Masculine love is built on commitment. Feminine love is built on admiration. And admiration is fragile. It does not survive comfort zones, complacency, weakness, or stagnation. A man can love a woman through age, flaws, and change. A woman cannot love a man who has stopped growing. That's why good men get left. Not because they were bad, but because they were safe, predictable, powerless. They created no tension, sparked no survival instinct, commanded no respect. The world taught them to be soft, sensitive, available, and then punished them for it by making them invisible. And invisibility is the very thing she dreads becoming. The modern man has been conditioned to believe his mission is to make her happy. But happiness is not what keeps her. Strength is. Stability is. Leadership is. She wants to test you, not because she's cruel, but because she needs to know you won't fold under pressure, that you won't collapse when she pushes, because she will push. It's not malice. It's instinct. She needs to know she's not with a boy. She needs to know she's with a man. If you don't pass those tests, she doesn't feel safe. And when she doesn't feel safe, she stops respecting you. When respect dies, love follows. Quickly, So you explain, you justify, you beg, you try to reason, but none of that works, because in her eyes weakness has already been revealed, and the more you explain, the more desperate you look, the more you apologize, the more invisible you become. You think your love will soothe her, but your love, without power, without clarity, without direction, means nothing. It becomes background noise to the loud ticking clock in her head. Every moment she feels less seen, less desired, less chosen, she starts to panic. And that panic is what drives the behavior you don't understand. She doesn't need a mirror to tell her she's aging. She feels it in the shift of glances on the street, in the dwindling compliments, in the rise of younger women stepping into the space she once ruled. She feels her market value declining, her desirability, her biological currency, losing weight. And when that happens, she starts acting out. Not consciously, not with a plan, but biologically, desperately, because irrelevance is the equivalent of social death. And social death is worse than solitude. It's obliteration. It's proof that she's no longer chosen. And being chosen is everything. She might have degrees, power, money, but if she feels that no man would still choose her, it all begins to crack. That's why she fights birthdays. That's why she erases lines with needles, alters curves with surgery, decorates fading youth with filters. She says it's for herself, but it's not. It's a weapon against invisibility. And when none of it works, she starts to hate the mirror. She starts to fear younger women. She starts to resent a world that no longer turns when she walks in the room. And in that resentment, the seeds of chaos bloom. Her behavior changes. She becomes more reactive, more dramatic, more demanding. Not because she wants to dominate, but because her biology is screaming, "Am I still valuable? Do I still matter? Do you still see me?" If you don't answer those questions correctly, not with words, but with presence, with dominance, with certainty, she will spiral. She will test you more, raise the stakes, amplify the drama. Not because she's evil, but because she's losing her power. And when a woman loses power, she doesn't protest with speeches. She fights with emotions. Male silence doesn't calm her. It confirms her worst fear. Your indifference doesn't feel strong. It feels like abandonment. And that triggers her most profound anxiety: to be replaced. Because being replaced isn't about the new woman. It's about identity theft. It's the moment she realizes she's no longer the center of anyone's desire. That's when manipulation starts, not as a tactic, but as survival. That's when she picks fights, not for resolution, but for relevance, because even conflict is better than being ignored. She'll push you, insult you, provoke you, just to see if she still has power over you. If she can still make you angry, you still care. If she can still make you jealous, she still matters. If she can still make you lose control, she's still relevant. But if you stay calm, if you hold the frame, if you do not flinch, then something remarkable happens. You become the only man she cannot emotionally destroy, and for that she will both fear you and admire you. She doesn't scream it aloud. She whispers it through comparisons, through side glances, through questions wrapped in insecurity. Do I still look good in this? Isn't about fashion. It's an existential probe. Do you think she's prettier than me? Isn't jealousy. It's survival calibration. The mirror isn't glass. It's a battlefield. And every photo, every outfit, every moment of self-reflection becomes a war between who she is and who she fears she is becoming. Not just older, but less chosen, less seen, less powerful. Watch the pattern unfold in plain sight. The validation obsession, the sudden bursts of drama, the over-sexualized displays online. These aren't random. These are biological strategies dressed in modern clothes. Every low-cut top, every filtered selfie, every cryptic post is a flare fired into the night sky. Am I still relevant? And if the world doesn't answer fast enough, she spirals again. She doesn't call it what it is. She says she's misunderstood, that she's evolving, that she's too much for the world. But underneath the hashtags and empowerment quotes is a primal scream. Please don't stop seeing me. And when all the signals fail, when attention doesn't arrive, when compliments dry up, when the male gaze moves on, she doesn't just feel ignored. She feels erased, replaced, forgotten. That's when the comparisons turn cruel, especially toward other women. She may never admit it. She may speak the language of sisterhood. But when a younger, more desired woman walks in, the survival instinct flares. It's not personal, it's evolutionary warfare, and in that war, truth becomes inconvenient. Honesty becomes unbearable, and those who still shine become enemies, not because of what they've done, but because of what they represent. The power she once had, and now fears she can never regain. You'll hear her say things like, "Men only want young women," but what she means is, "I'm no longer their first choice." You'll hear her criticize others for being shallow, but what she means is, "I wish I could still win without playing that game." This isn't hypocrisy. It's grief. Grief for a version of herself she didn't expect to lose so soon. And in that grief, she may lash out, not out of hatred, but out of terror. Because to be replaced isn't just to lose a seat at the table. It's to lose identity, to vanish into the crowd, to no longer hold the power of choice, but only the pain of watching others be chosen. Understand this, and you stop reacting. You stop being offended. You start observing. Because when you understand that the storm isn't about you, you stop drowning in it. You build shelter. You build strategy. And that's what she respects. Not your affection, not your poetry, not your desperate attempts to fix her with logic. She respects your composure under fire, your refusal to collapse, your ability to hold the frame when she tests you with every emotional weapon in her arsenal. Because beneath every attack is a single question: will you still see me, even now? Most men fail these tests. They think her chaos is a call for more attention. They give. They overgive. They chase. And in doing so, they bleed respect. Because desperation doesn't soothe her anxiety. It confirms it. She sees it in your eyes. You're afraid too. Afraid of losing her. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of not being enough. And when you show fear, she sees you as she sees herself. Unstable. Weak. Powerless. And that kills attraction faster than any mistake you've made. You thought being more loving would save the relationship. But it didn't. Because she didn't need love. She needed stability. She needed strength. She may say she wants you to open up more, to be more emotional. But what she really needs is your spine. She wants to feel your depth, not in sentiment, but in stability. Not in tears, but in restraint, because she's not testing your sensitivity. She's testing your leadership. And leadership under pressure is what separates the man she admires from the man she abandons. You'll notice something else too: the backup plan. The orbit of old friends, former lovers, male followers who never fully disappear. It's not betrayal, it's survival. Just like a man updates his resume when he senses a layoff, she maintains emotional exits when she senses her value declining. Not because she doesn't love you, but because she cannot afford to be discarded without options. Hypergamy isn't greed, it's insurance. Her biology screams, secure the best option before time runs out. If she senses you no longer perceive her as high value, she begins scanning for an escape. And if you react to that with begging, with panic, with jealousy, you've already confirmed her fears. Machiavelli said, The one who anticipates contempt strikes first. And that is what she does when she feels the shift. She begins to sabotage. She pushes you away. She creates problems where there were none. Because if she can no longer earn your admiration, she will demand your reaction. Conflict is better than silence. Anger is better than absence. If she can no longer inspire love, she will create war. Because even war confirms she still matters. Most men answer this with more affection, more sacrifice, more vulnerability. But they don't realize that in her eyes, they are no longer the prize. They are now a liability, something to manage, to tolerate, to eventually resent. A man who sacrifices his power to preserve her comfort becomes a man she must carry emotionally. And that burden is not what she seeks. She already has her own internal war to fight. She's not looking for another victim. She's looking for a lighthouse, a force she can orbit without needing to lead, a structure to stabilize her storm. The most dangerous men are not the most dominant or aggressive. They are the most centered, the ones who see through her chaos, not with disdain, but with precision. The ones who read the emotional code behind every outburst and refuse to be baited into emotional collapse. Those are the men who command respect. Because when you don't need her validation, you become the only man she cannot emotionally dismantle. You're no longer just a lover. You're a mirror to her weakness. And strangely, that's what draws her closer. Her fear is not loneliness. It's not betrayal. It's irrelevance. And when that fear reaches its peak, it either makes her implode or evolve. The wisest women accept the rules of the game. They adapt. They become strategic. They age with grace, not because they've escaped biology, but because they've made peace with it. The others fight a war they cannot win. Against mirrors, against younger women, against time itself, and that war takes everything, her joy, her softness, her clarity. She becomes brittle, bitter, frantic. Not because she's cruel, but because she's scared. Scared of not mattering, of being passed by, of vanishing. You're not here to fix her. You're not here to rescue her. You're here to remain unmoved, to be the calm in the storm. Because when you remain still while she shakes, when you hold frame while she breaks, when you observe while others react, you become unforgettable. You become rare. And in a world of weak men and chaotic noise, rare is irresistible. Some women, when they begin to feel the walls closing in, don't lash out. They go silent. That silence is not peace. It's not acceptance. It's not calm. It's punishment. A strategic withdrawal, not to retreat, but to test. Will you notice? Will you chase? Will you panic? The silence is the final test. Not for your words, but for your awareness. And when you fail to respond, not because you're strong, but because you're blind, her conclusion is immediate. I no longer matter. I have become invisible. And once that seed is planted, her departure is only a matter of time. Even worse is when she begins to compare herself, not to other women, but to her past self. I don't look like I used to, she says. But this isn't a fishing line for compliments. This is a fracture in identity. She's trying to reconcile who she is now with who she was when the world still gave her praise, when men still turned, when options still felt endless. This isn't vanity. It's identity erosion. Every wrinkle becomes a scar, not from age, but from lost validation. Every birthday a brutal reminder that her value is counted by numbers, and the world confirms it. Watch how media erases women past a certain age, how advertising changes its tone, how invisibility creeps into the algorithm. She feels it, even if she can't articulate it. So she doubles down. Style changes. Fitness routines intensify. Surgery becomes an option. Not because she hates herself, but because she fears no one else will love her again. The man who doesn't see this will dismiss it all as insecurity. He'll laugh, mock, withdraw. And in doing so, he accelerates her spiral. But the man who observes it without judgment, who contains the storm without belittling it, he becomes a fortress. Not because he agrees, but because he understands. And understanding is the most seductive form of strength a man can offer. Modern society has lied to her, sold her a fantasy that she can have it all, be it all, do it all, without sacrifice, without trade-offs, without time ever catching up. It told her that youth is a mindset, that beauty is subjective, that power doesn't fade. And for a while she believed it. But biology doesn't negotiate. Biology doesn't care about hashtags. It doesn't care about TED Talks, degrees, or empowerment slogans. Biology whispers a different truth, and it's louder every year. And when that truth becomes undeniable, the internal war begins. Not against the world, but against herself. That war is hormonal, it's psychological, it's spiritual. She questions her worth, her path, her desires. She lashes out not because she's evil, but because she's fragmented, torn between the narrative and the mirror, between the empowerment she preaches and the emptiness she feels. That's why the woman who screams she doesn't need a man often secretly aches for one. That's why the social media feeds full of independence and boss energy are often the ones filled with late-night emotional collapses. Because the character she plays online doesn't match the void she feels offline. And the gap between those two worlds becomes unbearable. She was told she could postpone love, family, commitment, that she could chase success, chase freedom, chase herself, and that love would wait. But love doesn't wait. The market doesn't pause. And when she finally turns around, ready to settle, she finds herself standing in a different world. One where the men she once ignored no longer chase. One where younger women now stand where she once stood. And the panic that hits her then is existential. Because it's not just about being alone. It's about realizing that her value, once limitless, is now questioned. So she reaches for answers. Many turn to spirituality, not as faith, but as emotional refuge. Tarot cards, astrology, crystals, rituals. These aren't about belief, they're about control. When reality becomes too brutal, illusion becomes medicine. And the man who mocks this, who rolls his eyes, proves one thing: he doesn't understand. But the man who watches, who sees through the ritual into the raw emotional wound, that man becomes sacred, because he sees her without illusion. And in that gaze, she finds temporary peace. Now you know. The fear was never loneliness. It was irrelevance. It was the terror of being seen for the last time, of becoming background noise, of losing the one power she never had to ask for: attention. And when that power fades, everything collapses. Her identity, her peace, her behavior. What once seemed like madness now makes sense. What once felt like manipulation now reads as survival. Because behind every test, every game, every outburst, there's only one question screaming in silence: do I still matter? Most men will never see this. They will react instead of interpret. They will yell instead of observe. They will crumble under emotional weight that was never meant to be personal. And that's why they lose. Because they expect logic from what is biological. Because they want stability from someone in survival mode. But you, brother, you are no longer one of them. You've seen the blueprint. You understand the game. And now you carry the one power they never had: clarity. Clarity not to control her, not to change her, but to become unshakable in the storm, to remain standing when she collapses, to lead when she falters, because the man she needs is not the man who reacts. It's the one who endures, the one who can be kind without being weak, who can give without being consumed, who can understand without surrendering his edge, the man who can walk away, not to hurt her, but to remind her of his value. This, brother, is what she truly respects. A man who sees her without needing her, who feels deeply, but governs himself completely, who loves without losing identity, who gives without begging, who stays when it's hard, but leaves when he's disrespected. That's what separates the naive from the sovereign. And that sovereignty is what makes you truly masculine. Not your money, not your looks, not your muscles, your mastery over yourself, over your emotions, over your mission. This isn't an invitation to hate women. This is an invitation to stop fearing them, to stop being blindsided by their chaos, to stop playing their emotional game without knowing the rules. When you understand her fear, she can no longer manipulate you. When you decode her behavior, she can no longer destabilize you. And when you master yourself in the face of her storm, you become the one thing she's never truly had, a man who can hold her without being held hostage. She won't admit this. Most never will, but they feel it, they sense it, and they gravitate toward it like heat in winter. Because when a woman no longer knows who she is, she searches for a man who does. When she drowns in her contradictions, she needs someone who swims in truth. That is your power, not to dominate her, but to remain immovable. Not to chase her love, but to command her respect. And not to fulfill her fantasy, but to embody her reality, a man who cannot be shaken. The world around her is collapsing in noise, in pressure, in lies, and you, brother, will become the still point in her chaos. The one man who doesn't flinch, the one man who doesn't explain, the one man who doesn't bend. And in that unyielding presence, you will do what no seduction ever could. You will awaken her reverence. Because a woman may be drawn to many, but she kneels only for one. The one she cannot move, the one she cannot own, the one she cannot break. And that man, now that you know the code, is you.